In his role as a senior director at Target Tech in India, our speaker leads the product engineering teams focused on building reliability in Target's products. He is leading site reliability performance and efficiency, reliability tools and practices, technology operations center, and network engineering teams in India. Prior to joining Target, he has held various roles in organizations such as EY, Oracle, and Infosys, enabling applications and products for high performance, scale, and reliability. And it's not all work and no play for our global leader. In his spare time, he loves playing squash and spending time with his two lovely daughters. He'll be steering today's session on bootstrapping an SRE team by sharing his immense knowledge on answers to questions like how to pivot from existing operation practices to SRE, how to get buy-in for SRE from senior management, and how to hire the right talent and organize the SRE team, and much, much more. Ladies and gentlemen, taking charge of your screens right now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Suresh Khemka.
Hi, I am Suresh, Senior Director Production Engineering at Target Tech, India. Today I will be sharing my experiences with SRE, specifically how to bootstrap an SRE team. The way we design, build and run software has evolved a lot in last decade and a half. The pace of change is high. Organizations have adopted DevOps and Agile to keep up with constantly changing business needs, and those have influenced how we design and architect our application and systems. Adoption of microservices, serverless, public cloud, infrastructure as code has increased at a breakneck pace. We are deploying code every day or hour compared to monthly release cycles. All this also had a few side effects. The velocity comes at its own risk. One of them is exponential increase in operational overhead. At the same time, end user expectations of reliability has increased. Traditional operational practices are found wanting in this scenario, and industry has evolved different practices to handle increased complexity in system architectures and keep up with the reliability demands for their systems. SRE or site reliability engineering is the response to these challenges. Before I start, I will quickly want to give introduction to Target. Target is a Fortune 500 company with 1900 plus stores in US. And technology team at Targets provides systems which service our guests across stores and website, and also enables our team members do their job effectively in stores and distribution centers. And SRE teams at Target play a critical role in making these systems reliable. So let's talk a little more about why SRE. For a lot of businesses, reliability is one of the most important feature of the system, and not just for large e-commerce businesses or social networks, right? Our users are unforgiving. They have many options, and if your systems are not available when they need it, they will move on to competitors. For example, in India, we all use UPI to make payments, and there are multiple payment apps providing UPI services. And if one of the UPI service provider fails during a transaction, you will just use another provider in a heartbeat without thinking twice, right? Even if your users don't have options to use another service provider, like your salary bank account, right? You cannot use any other bank service, right? But there might be a regulatory impact wherein a lack of reliability can lead to restrictions on business and loss of revenue and reputation. We recently saw this in a case of a leading bank in India, right? And pandemic has also caused increased reliance on online service delivery. We all are working from home and do most of the things online. So, is SRE a solution to all these challenges? Is SRE right for you? If reliability matters to you for your business and your workload is growing, and you need to scale your systems to meet that increasing user demand, or if you follow agile practices to build and deploy features frequently in production, like every hour or every day, which has a high risk of those changes falling into production, SRE might be answer to your reliability challenges. And reliability is not cheap. Like cost of going from 2 nines to 3 nines is much smaller than going from 3 nines to 4 nines. The rule of thumb is that each additional line of reliability is 10x costlier. Yes, this cost is product of many factors, but operations is one big chunk of that. So what is SRE? Those who do not know, SRE was pioneered by Google around 2004. The basic premise of SRE is to solve operational problems using software engineering. SRE evolution has quite a lot of similarity with DevOps movement. I would say while overarching objectives are similar, high velocity with high quality and reliability, SRE has evolved its own set of practices to complement DevOps nicely. Like DevOps, SRE is also a mindset, a set of beliefs which shapes your habit. How do you build your systems? How do you deploy changes in production? How do you deal with incidents in production? Or how do you ensure psychological safety of people managing your system? And SRE is also a cultural construct, values and principles like embracing risks, learning from failure, which guides your behavior. So, as in DevOps, when we say SRE, do we mean a separate team? Or if SRE is a culture and mindset, is SRE part of your agile team or just an additional responsibility for your agile teams? Now, as with DevOps, different organizations have taken different implementation approaches. Same is the case with SRE too. It depends a lot on your context, your organization structure, your scale, complexity of your systems, the kind of reliability challenges you are facing, and then many other factors. Organizations have adopted variety of approaches to SRE. They have matured them in their own unique way, what suits to them. And successful SRE implementation are those who have evolved their SRE practices and principle to meet their own requirements. Here, I would like to have a word of caution. SRE is not a tool or a set of tools. You cannot buy SRE off the shelf. Like buying and installing a monitoring, alerting product or an APM tool and expect your problems to be solved overnight. And changing the nameplate from operations to SRE is also not what you would want to do. As I said, SRE is a mindset. It's a culture. It takes some time and effort to build and nurture SRE capabilities. So, what do SREs actually do? We talked about that it's highly contextual and depend upon different SRE models, or patterns as I call them. We will talk about them in a minute. But if we survey, what responsibilities SREs own in different organizations, there are many different tasks and many different perspectives, right? First and foremost, SREs help setting a foundation for reliability, and they do it by utilizing software engineering skills to solve the operational problems. SRE can be responsible for your production incidents. When there is an alert, respond to those alerts, fix those issues, triage them, use those learnings from those incidents, to strengthen your reliability posture. Another common SRE job is to build, maintain observability and monitoring platforms as they are critical for detection and isolation and fixing of your production issues. Now, those can be popular open source tools or commercial products, or SRE can build them in-house. Another typical SRE task is toil elimination. Toil is any kind of manual, repetitive, and non-value adding work. This is one of the key SRE practice, using software engineering to automate away toil. SRE also help organizations learn from failures using blameless postmortem of incidents. Where focus is not on assigning blame, but figuring out opportunity to improve your systems to avoid recurrences of outages, and also identify opportunities for improvement in your system, process, tools, etc. SRE can also take care of capacity management and performance optimization, tuning your system stack, to help run them with optimal capacity and cost also. At some places, SRE help in designing and architecting systems so that they are highly available or disaster resilient or can handle peak workloads like Thanksgiving or Black Friday kind of workloads. They can run disaster recovery tests or chaos testing, what some mature organizations do. They can also build infrastructure as code or your deployment pipelines, which we can say kind of also overlaps with DevOps functions. So overall, SRE helps building a culture of reliability in the organization. And from the activities we discussed, that's not an exhaustive set, right? Based upon your context, SRE team in your organization can do more or less also, right? If you take a Rashi perspective, responsibility, accountability, consult and inform, SRE in some organizations are accountable or responsible for reliability, but then in some, they might just act as a consultant. And it's not like a permanent thing, it's a transient thing, right? Based upon maturity of practices, SRE teams evolves with time and they can expand their scope. They can take up more tasks. So I spoke about different SRE team models or patterns, right? What are those? This is like a permutation and combination of SRE activities, based upon, what SRE team actually do. And kind of Rasi perspective also, we can categorize different SRE models into 4 or 5, big patterns. The first one is, embedded model, where SREs are embedded with your agile team. They have a shared backlog, but mostly focus on building reliability features like infrastructure as code, your deployment pipelines, instrumenting your code, responding to alerts or production incidents, improving your performance, managing monitoring tool, automating tool, etc., etc. But at the same time, they also build business features. Now, these SREs are responsible for availability of their systems. So for medium or small or even in some large organization, it is a quick way to start with SRE. Well, the scope of SRE might be fuzzy, but I think that's fine. The one potential flip side for this pattern is that there might not be a shared learning system when you have a lot of embedded SRE teams, working along with your agile teams. They might be solving similar challenges in their own unique ways. And most of these problems and their solution in an organization actually or usually fall into a pattern, and you might need to find a way to share learnings among these embedded teams. But that's a great way to kickstart your SRE team. Second one is centralized SRE. Now, this is usually observed in medium to large organizations or where your overall business flow or user journeys comprises of various teams or services or microservices owned and built by different verticals. And a lot of these systems have to work in tandem to service your customers reliably. These SRE teams usually own observability and monitoring, and they manage incidents at a business level, not at an individual service level. They might own or not own reliability. In the latter case, with service on call, they work with service on calls to recover systems when things go wrong in production. These teams define SLOs or service level objectives at business level and monitor them. Clearly defining the scope for SRE team is quite critical for success of this kind of pattern. The third one is infrastructure and application. It's more like owning horizontal part of your tech stack, as the name suggests, right? Either application or infrastructure. Now they own their respective areas, but work with each other to resolve an outage or improve your reliability posture. Organization with advanced level of public cloud adoptions, where they rely upon public cloud providers for their infrastructure, usually will have application SRE teams, and they rely on the cloud provider for infrastructure reliability. Here again, defining clear scope and boundaries is quite critical. And these SREs can own accountable for reliability for their part of the stack, or just manage monitoring and observability tool and manage SLOs for their layer and continuously work on eliminating toil. Another model for SRE is tools SRE. These SRE teams usually own development, implementation, or support for tooling. Tooling like monitoring, observability, alerting, automation like having a runbook framework, right? Capacity planning or optimization. Basically, they enables other teams for SRE related tasks. This is quite limited scope, but in large organizations, these teams can help bring uniformity and standards in tooling and processes. In some cases, they build in-house solutions to solve their own unique problems. Now, there is always a risk that these SREs might be out of touch of reality about what problems people in field are facing. So it's always good to rotate these team members to work closely with who responds to your pager alerts. Experience-based SRE, that's Target's approach for SRE. We strongly believe in DevOps. You build it and you manage it, right? However, our business functions involve complex interactions among multiple services, application, infrastructure, and platforms. So while you can see that this is something similar to centralized SRE, given the target scale, we have multiple SRE teams based upon experience. And when I say experience, it's about experience of our guests in stores, or experience of our guests shopping at target.com, or experience of our team members working in our stores or distribution and flow centers, or a different kind of a key business process, right? Experience-based SRE team own an end-to-end experience and work with different teams like app teams, infrastructure, platform teams to ensure reliability for the experience they are responsible for. These SRE team instruments for reliability help in continuously improving reliability, define and propagate best practices, which we call as reliability tenets. For example, getting code into production, managing code into production, learning from failure. Okay, so we spoke about what SRE is, what SREs do, and why do we need SRE, and then also different models of SRE. Now, there is no absolutely wrong or right implementation of SRE. There is no one-size-fits solution all. But implementing any of these above patterns is not simple, and there are multiple reasons for that. First, we have a huge scarcity of experienced SREs. See, an ideal SRE is who possesses both software and system skills. And given the usual career progression in our industry, this mix is a little bit difficult to find. And as we also saw, there are different combination of SRE activities, in an organization. Some organizations do some of them, others do, maybe a little bit different, from what one organization is doing. And based upon, their employment history, the experienced SRE will have their own mix of skills. So one way to overcome this problem, and which we have tried at Target with fair amount of success, is bootstrapping SRE team. What is bootstrapping? According to Wikipedia, bootstrapping refers to a self-starting process that is supposed to continue or grow without any external input. It's like, someone starting a new company or a startup, from his or her own personal saving without any external investment. Same way, bootstrapping SRE is kind of inner sourcing your team. That is building a team completely from existing team members working in different other agile or infrastructure or development teams in your organization, or at least majority of them. So why bootstrap? Why it's a good idea? We discuss availability of talent, right? And we know the demand of SRE huge, supply is not proportionate. And then you have to compete with organizations which are quite mature in their SRE journey. And you are just starting your SRE journey. But honestly, these are not insurmountable problems. Biggest benefit of bootstrapping is that it helps you to de-risk your SRE building process. If you are exploring SRE for first time and want to experiment where you can afford to fail fast, bootstrapping is a good approach. If you are not sure if your organization is ready for SRE, bootstrapping can help you try it out without huge consequences. Bootstrapping comes with other benefits too. When you inner source your team, they will have an experiential knowledge of your systems. They know your tech stack because they have been working on it. They are aware of existing problems, the challenges, reliability challenges you face, and they have connections, relationship with people whom they are going to work with. And they don't have to start from scratch. At worst case, if it doesn't work for someone, they can always go back to their original team. Before bootstrapping your team, you will have to make few decisions, right? First and foremost is that what model and pattern you want to start with. How do you select from pool of interested and eligible talent pool within your organization? What they are going to do, or more importantly, what your SREs are not going to do. And when I face these kind of decisions, I usually rely upon a playlist to help me decide, which is kind of a set of questions to ask yourself, principles to consult, and ideas to consider. Answering these questions can help you make better decisions. So for bootstrapping SRE, you need to ask what reliability challenges this SRE team is going to solve. What are the issues plaguing reliability for the systems this team is going to manage? Like, Are there a lot of changes which fail into production and cause outages and a lot of rework for your agile teams? Or outages which just keep on occurring again and again? Or triaging issues in production takes an inordinate amount of time. Once you know these challenges which needs to be solved, what is the value you want to drive with SRE? Do you want to improve your detection capabilities, or you want to help provide a solution for reduction in, say, change related accidents, like building a canary deployment tool so that you can avoid change related outages, or just improve incident management processes for effective and faster remediation? What is the end state you are looking at? What is the long-term roadmap you have in your mind for SRE? Because you are going to start small, but then ultimately you would like to grow and mature your SRE practices. What obstacles you can foresee during your journey? And can you learn from experiences of other in similar situations, similar kind of organization structure or same kind of industry? Answering these questions help you get clarity and demystify a lot of things for you. So, first challenge, how do you hire from existing team members for your SRE team? Remember, we are talking about inner sourcing SREs, people who are already working in different teams in your organization, and you want to hire few of them to get your SRE team going. So, what do you look for? Now, I'm going to discuss both traits and competencies, but I will emphasize more on traits. For a new SRE team, these traits are quite important. And like even if you're hiring an engineer or anyone else, these traits, in my belief, matter more. But for success of a new SRE initiative, I think they matters a lot, because competencies can be built over time. And people with these traits can build those competencies anytime with easily. So give higher weightage to initiative. You know, Initiative means drive. Our normal tendency is to look for people experienced in technology to get a head start. And experience is not bad per se, but people with initiative are curious. They are willing to learn new things and apply them. They are driven to solve problems. In case you are already facing reliability challenges, and I believe that's the reason you want to start SRE team, people with initiative can reframe the problem, think differently, and arrive at innovative solutions. Growth mindset. Growth mindset is about thriving on challenges, seeing failure as a springboard for growth and for stretching our existing capabilities. Remember, one of the key SRE value is learning from failure, and growth happens at edge of our capabilities. Growth mindset is absolutely critical for SRE. Resourcefulness, that's another key trait you should look for. It's its capability to find better and optimal ways of working. Remember, SRE automates our toil. That's resourcefulness. And they should be able to work well with others. They should be able to build relationship, connections, communicate effectively. And SRE needs to value speed, embrace initiative, iterative and incremental agile approaches, because they will be working with many agile teams. Also, actively try to build a diverse team. Hire team member from diverse background, not only diverse technological background, and cover as many as different perspective as you can. You are going to need that to produce new ideas and approach problems in diverse and different ways. Competencies, of course, these are also important. Now look for people who have both programming and software skills and system skills, or maybe they have one of them, but they have a keen interest in learning the other, right? Look for people who have fair amount of understanding of your infrastructure, your software engineering practices, your architecture and design approaches, so that they are kind of ready when you kickstart this team. However, if possible, refrain from hiring domain experts or specialists just for now. So once you have identified team members, how to onboard your team? Your new SREs will have certain traits and competencies, but they will need your help as a leader with their journey. Now it's easy to let them swim or sing, expect them to figure it out themselves. However, you will do better if you can help them navigate the initial period by setting very clear expectations. Cross skilling is one. SRE needs to have broad understanding of technologies. design practices being used. They kind of need to have a full stack knowledge. Now, ideally, you should have assembled your team from diverse backgrounds. So encourage them to share their knowledge with each other so that they can learn from each other. Utilize any existing onboarding and training programs for development or infrastructure teams to equip SREs with a good understanding of these areas. Maybe pair them with developers or infrastructure specialists in your organization, because that can help them go a long way. Learn existing incident management process tools for monitoring like logging, alerting, observability, tracing, etc. Now, you should run simulation exercises regularly, like tabletop exercises, game days, chaos days, so that new SREs can understand and internalize current processes, which will enable them to react to incidents quickly and also look for potential improvements. Intentionally curate content for your team, as it will not only help during initial stages of your bootstrapping, but also onboard new team members when your team grows. Encourage them to meet join-ups and other events to learn from the community. There is a lot of content available over internet. Google SRE book is an absolutely great start. And a few other books, like Seeking SRE, Implementing Service Level Objectives are also great. And there are mailing lists like SRE Weekly, Monitoring Weekly, where you can learn from other people's experience. Focus should be on continuous learning, building new capabilities, and continuously expand understanding of your system and processes, your system's behaviors, failure modes, and opportunities for improvement. And SRE can be a stressful job, and psychological safety is quite important. You have to be cognizant of that. How leaders respond when something goes wrong, an outage happen or something breaks down, that will be closely watched by SREs, and they need to have a sense of psychological safety, and that's an absolute must for a success of this SRE team. So you got the team, get them onboarded. How can you get them started? There are a few more things you need to do to get your team going, and I'm going to share some tips from my experience. Primarily, define and limit your scope. That's very, very important. I cannot emphasize more on that, because scope can quickly get unwieldy, as there will always be too many things to do. Monitoring, alerting, improving architecture, building resiliency, chaos testing, high availability, failover, DR capabilities, performance tuning, capacity planning, so many things, right? SREs are supposed to do so many things. So limit your scope. Start small. Be intentional on what your SRE team is going to do, what they are going to focus and deliver. Set up specific and measurable outcomes. Also ensure that you are not duplicating any effort which is already being taken care by another part of your organization. It helps in limiting the scope. Do have a both short-term and long-term plan in place. SREs are data-driven. You should be able to measure your accomplishments. Let's say if you are focusing on improving observability, the idea is to detect issues faster. Baseline, what is your current mean time to detection? How SREs are helping reducing it, and how much? Okay, so SLO or service level objective is the best place to start. SLO help you make better decisions by bringing end user perspective. It helps bring in empathy for users of your system. For us, like it can be a guest in our store, or a guest shopping on our website, or someone within our organization using the system built by us. Baseline your reliability by establishing current SLOs and then set target for improvement, and also build a roadmap for that. Now, resilient architecture is core of building reliable system, but that's not all. There are many areas where you need to work or can work to improve reliability, needles which you can move quickly and create an immediate impact. We spoke about like detecting issues faster, or even before they become incidents, or making your trials process faster, or make it easier to identify root cause and help reduce your MTTD and MTTR. Look closely for opportunities here. Build and improve observability of your system. Instrument your code, instrument your infrastructure. And remember, incidents will happen. They are part of life. And reacting to each incident and focusing only on fixing the root cause for the last one might not be the best approach. You might always be playing catch up. Avoid this in beginning of your SRE journey. Prioritize progress over perfections. Follow an iterative and incremental approach whenever possible. So don't try to fix issue in a one go or like big issues. Try to make incremental improvements in your system. There are also some don'ts I would like to discuss here. At start of your journey, do not aim for solving big and complex architectural problems. Now, solution to these big kind of problems are complex and they have long gestation period, and they take a great deal of effort and time to resolve. You need to give time and space to your team to grow and gain confidence. Now, also natural tendency for SRE or anyone looking, to try to catch issues in production is to add more and more alerts, right? We all have experienced alert fatigue or alert overload. I remember one golden rule, reading a long time ago, and that has stayed with me, is that monitor everything under the sun, but alert only on business events. That's your SLOs, right? And every alert should be actionable. We spoke about psychological safety, right? And when things go wrong in production, don't blame individuals. And I know it's tempting. It's an easy way out, right? It's an easy way out to get closer. Every outage or failure should be seen as an opportunity to learn. Institute a true blameless postmortem process and use practices like 5 whys and others. Now it might take a while to get good at it, but it's worth putting the effort. SREs are data driven. Every decision should be backed up by data. Sometimes we don't know what caused an incident and rely on hunches or intuition to resolve it. Then one of the most often used hunch is, hey, restart everything, whatever is not working. That's a sign that we need to invest in building observability. So, back up every decision you make with data. Collect as much data as possible. And if your focus is on building instrumentation and tool, or like say you are more of a tools SRE team or a centralized SRE team, keep your ears to the ground. It's very easy to fall into trap of acquiring latest tracing or analytical tools or AI tools, but you need to identify what are the real pain points for people who are waking up and responding to pages at 3 a.m. of their morning. And rotating SRE team members as part of those teams is a good idea to know that what's actually going into production and what problems you should focus on. So things are going good. Let's say 6 months or 1 year out of your SRE journey, you got a very good SRE team going, are able to drive impact, improve reliability. Future is looking bright too. Now, what should you do? I would say time to shake up things because a steady state is unsustainable. Expand your scope. Go one level deeper or onboard more applications or more areas, services. Expand your horizon so that SRE team can take on bigger challenges. Now you can aim for that big architectural pain area you were reaching to solve, right? Maybe now add some specialists to go after these and implement, solutions. Restructure your team, evolve and mature, your team. Evolve to a different model and pattern, or try to mix things, right? Like using hybrid models. As I said, if you have a tools SRE or a centralized SRE, temporarily or for a period, can you embed people in other teams, right? But one thing you must do, continuously keep measuring the improvement SRE is bringing to reliability. Remember, SRE is data driven. Okay, let's also talk about when things don't go according to the plan. That's possibility, right? You will need to assess that fact. What are the factors affecting the team? Are those internal or external? Let's talk about internal factors first. You need to closely observe the progress of your team and check if they are having difficulties transitioning to SRE mindset. And that takes a time. Changing to an SRE mindset is, I think, the biggest challenge when you hire people internally, right? Who are playing different roles. How are they solving problems? What is their common approach to daily tasks? Is they seeing any kind of toil as an opportunity to automate it away, or they keep on doing the same thing manually? Like, do we just keep on adding more and more alerts? So we know it takes a lot of time to adopt that mindset, but if you don't see visible progress, it's a good idea to hire a few experienced SREs to help team watch them and learn from them and make this transition. Maybe say 10% of your team members can be new and experienced SRE team members from other organizations. Another aspect is also, like, investigating to assess that, hey, are we solving the right problems, or are we trying to solve too many problems? Are we trying to boil the ocean? Are we stretching ourselves too thin? Review our scope. Again, set specific, achievable and time bound objectives, where you can move the needle. And it's going to be a long journey. Be mentally prepared for that. Break down your journey into a set of targets. While you need to have a long term vision or an end state, but plan for concrete milestones along the way and play to your team's strength when you are planning those milestones. We stay motivated when we make progress and have a feeling of accomplishment. External factors may be when you are duplicating work and there is no clear value addition. Can we quantify SRE's contribution? Go back to the playlist, ask those questions again. In a big organization, there can be seemingly overlap between, SRE and other teams. People might have that confusion. Okay, if SRE is going to do this, what are we going to do, right? And it can lead to friction. You need to clearly delineate the scope for SRE team. I'm sure there are multiple things, you need to build and run system reliably, and there will be, things no one else is doing in your organization. Publish your scope if you haven't already. Get your stakeholders buy-in, like your peers. Friction and conflicts are not bad. They help us build clarity. They help us learn how to cooperate and build new perspective. Do not fear, but manage friction and conflicts. Okay, so building a new team is not always easy, and with SRE, it's certainly not. My heartfelt thanks to DevOps India team for this opportunity to share my experiences, and all of you who carved out time from your busy lives to hear my thoughts. I hope it will help you in your SRE journey. You can reach out to me on my email or on LinkedIn. Happy to take any questions, or comments, or suggestions and learn your experiences from your SRE journey. Thank you.